Calling the April 11th meeting of the Planning Commission to order. Can we have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Donenfeld is excused. Commissioner Hirschbein?
Here.
Hudson?
Present.
Maruzzi?
Here.
Woods?
Present.
Vice Chair Callardine?
Here.
And Chair Wormick.
Present.
6 members present. We have a quorum.
3 here, 3 present.
Can we have a report on the posting of the agenda, please?
Madam Chair, the agenda was posted on Thursday, April the 5th. This meeting has been noticed and posted in accordance with state law.
And can we have is there a motion to accept the agenda as posted?
Move it.
Moved by Commissioner Callardine, seconded by Commissioner Hudson. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. This is public comment period. This time has been set aside for members of the public to address the Planning Commission on consent calendar and other agenda items and items of general interest within the subject matter jurisdiction of the Planning Commission. Please note that we are prohibited from taking any action on items that are not posted on this agenda. Each speaker will be limited to 3 minutes. As I look through the agenda, item 2A is a public hearing item. If you are here on the modification of the sign code, this is a public hearing item. Item 3A, which is Planning Commission rules, and item 5A, which are proposed amendments to the planned development districts, are not hearing items. So if you're here to speak on either of those, you should speak during the public comment period. Thank you. Are there any members of the public that wish to speak? Seeing none, public comment period is ended, and we're going to the consent calendar. The consent calendar is the approval of the minutes of February 14th, 2018, and February 28th, 2018. Do I have a motion on the consent calendar? Moved by Commissioner Hirschbein, seconded by Commissioner Hudson. All in favor?
Aye.
Do you want to hit your...
Oh, you're doing an actual vote, I'm sorry.
6 in favor with 1 absent. The consent calendar is approved. Moving on to the public hearing items, 2A is the City of Palm Springs to consider minor modifications to Section 93.20.00 through 93.20.13 of the Palm Springs zoning code relating to the city's sign ordinance. Can we have a staff report, please?
Certainly, Madam Chair and members of the Commission, the item that you have before you in this public hearing today is relative to minor modifications to the city's sign ordinance. As you may recall, the sign ordinance was most recently amended in December of 2017, and those changes were primarily based on Supreme Court decision in 2015 relative to having content-neutral sign regulations. With that, we made some changes to our processes, most specifically on the approval process for sign programs. The procedures were changed from having Planning Commission being the final approving authority for sign programs with waivers and moving that to the City Council. The City Council had several applications come before them over the past several months. They have since determined that they would like to return that approval authority to the Planning Commission. And so that is the primary change that is being proposed today. And that is a change that is reflected on page 20 of the backup materials to your staff report. So that's the significant change that was requested by the City Council in bringing this back before you. There were also some minor Scrivener's errors in the ordinance that was approved by City Council in December, and so the majority of those are included in the strikeout underlined version that you have before you. They are not significant changes to the ordinance itself. There is one change that I did want to call to your attention. With the removal of content-specific sign regulations. We removed the term menu signs from the code, and we now have those categorized as secondary signs in both our commercial districts and in our uptown, downtown districts. One of the things we did in moving that over to the secondary sign category is we inadvertently reduced the size of those, and so what I'm proposing to do is return those to what was in existence prior to the adoption of the new ordinance in December of 2017. So those are the changes that are proposed. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you have about these modifications.
Commissioner Hirschbein?
On the sign programs, does AAC still look at those?
Yes, the process is that the Architectural Advisory Committee will review sign programs and make a recommendation. They would then go to the Planning Commission, as was the practice in the past.
Thank you.
Madam Chair?
I'm going down the line in terms of questions. Commissioner Hudson, Commissioner Maruzzi, Commissioner Wood.
Flynn, I just might need some background information on the whole thing. So the portable signs that we're looking at that you have highlighted in red, basically the sandwich signs, and does that also include things like these tall flags that fly and things of that nature? Is there a limitation to that?
Portable signs are separate from other temporary signs that you might see. Portable signs have their own category in the sign ordinance, whereas temporary banners and things like that are covered under the temporary sign portion of the ordinance. There's also a section of prohibited signs. So certain things like inflatables, et cetera, are prohibited by the ordinance.
So if somebody has a portable sign, if I'm reading this correctly, they need to get an encroachment permit prior to putting the portable sign out?
Correct. That's part of our application process, and we've actually simplified that for the portable signs so that the encroachment permit is just a signature line on the application itself by the engineering department.
Okay, so if somebody comes in for Coachella, and we've seen where they change the name of the hotel for the weekend, and they put up different signage, how does the city deal with that?
We would deal with that through our temporary sign provisions in the code.
Okay, and then we have signs that can be placed at bus stops, which opens us up to a whole array of rights that people have for public free speech, and maybe even on newspaper racks where people might put signage on the side of the rack. How do we regulate those?
Our sign ordinance deals with signage on private property. Signage in public rights-of-way, for example, the signage that's on bus shelters, is handled under a separate agreement between our transit authority and the city council. So any signage in the right-of-way is ultimately the jurisdiction of the city council, and it has to be done under a specific contract. Banners that you see over city streets, again, those are approved by the city. On light poles where we have a banner program, there's a section of our sign ordinance that deals with that. But generally, any signage in the right-of-way is subject to the approval of the city.
Great, thank you. And just when we issue an encroachment permit for this portable sign or sandwich sign, I think we see most of there. They also give them regulations on where that can be placed, I assume, so that there's an understanding between the business owner and what's happening, what they're allowed to do. Correct.
And there was a significant change to our regulations on portable signs with the adoption of the new ordinance in December. What the new language says is that the portable sign must be placed adjacent to the building. And so that was a significant change. Also, there was an increase in the width of the clear sidewalk that had to be maintained. Previous to December of 2017, that was 48 inches. Meeting ADA requirements. What City Council approved in December increased that to 72 inches.
Thank you.
Commissioner Callardine?
Yes, on page 14, under portable sign, uptown, downtown, the new text in red, and you just mentioned this, the 72 inches of required clear space. Is that adequate everywhere, or are there places where the pedestrian volume is so high that it might require an increased setback? 72 inches, about 3 people abreast, right? Something like that. 6 feet.
The 72-inch requirement applies anywhere there is a portable sign in the public right-of-way on a public sidewalk, regardless of what the actual conditions may be. So in certain cases, it may be that there isn't adequate width on the sidewalk to maintain that 72 inches and the portable sign, and so in those cases, the portable sign would not be permissible.
I'm more worried about the case the other way, where a portable sign might be able to make the 72 inches, but it would still create a bottleneck because the pedestrian volume is so high. And a couple of places in downtown, I mean, downtown has been so successful the last few weekends that I'm not sure that 72 inches is going to cut it in some of those places. But
the way the ordinance is written is if the 72 inches is provided, then the portable sign is allowed.
anyone else, if no one else has a concern about it, then I'll.
Well, at this point, there's just a question.
Okay.
A question for you, Flynn. When I'm looking at page 4 and or page 9 and 10, it under portable signs. There's just about 10 words crossed out. But when I look at page 3 of the back section of this, it's entirely new text. What are the change? What's the change?
One of the things that happened when the amendment was approved by the City Council in December is the language on portable signs was different in the two different sections of the document, that we didn't have the same language in both the commercial and industrial districts that we had in the downtown uptown district. And so this is to correct that so that the language is the same in all of the commercial districts relative to the portable signs.
And so there's no real change in what the intent of the city council was in terms of what they passed, merely a consistency change to correct typing errors.
Yeah, that is correct.
There being no more questions, I wanted to open this to public hearing. If members of the public would like to come forward.
Hello, public.
Hello, Commission and city staff. First of all, I'd like to thank especially the people that have been on this planning commission for a long time and are possibly as sick of hearing about signs as I am. I did want to just make some comments today. I realize that there's that nothing that I really have to say today will change anything in regards to the sign ordinance itself. But I do want to say that some of the wording in it, and particularly one of the things that you're changing today, which is the 3 feet back from the sidewalk, from the curb, that is something that led me as president of Main Street and also as a merchant to believe that this sign ordinance said something else. We did not feel that the word adjacent to the building in the new ordinance actually meant that you want us to put it up against our building so that then people have to walk on the sidewalk like this. That just doesn't even make any sense. So when I found out, thankfully, after meeting with your planning director, that is actually what the intent was, I have to tell you I was shocked. It did not appear that that is what this sign ordinance said. So when I went forward to council all gung-ho about how much I support it and how much all the merchants finally are so thankful and grateful that we have come this far with it, I really have to tell you, I didn't